I want to welcome everybody to Iowa Postgame with Hawkeye legend Kachine Alexander. I'm your host, Corey Bratta. Before we get to a recap of a very exciting second round NCAA tournament contest inside the confines of Carver Hawkeye Arena, I want to thank those that make it possible. Iowa Smokehouse, they've been with us throughout the Iowa women's basketball season, providing great snacking options to Hawkeye fans everywhere. Check it out. Check out their website, iowasmokehouse.com, and use the code Hawkeyes for 15% off your total order. If you appreciate coverage like this show, be sure to get your orders in today, iowasmokehouse.com. Free shipping on any $50 order, and you get 15% off your total order with the code Hawkeyes. That's iowasmokehouse.com. Also, want to thank RTI Threads. RTI Threads player of the game tonight, Caitlin Clark, with her 32 points, 11 of 12 from the free throw line to go along with 8 rebounds. And I'm sure Kachine has a lot to say about her performance because West Virginia made it especially hard on her, but she still managed to get her season average with 32. RTI Threads, by the way, proud supporters of not only Iowa women's basketball, but also Iowa baseball. Their season in full swing. Check out the selection. They've got a new partnership with the Swarm and with the baseball team. Support NIL, support Iowa, support RTI Threads, sponsor this program. Check it out, iowabaseballswarm.com. It's iowabaseballswarm.com. Without further ado, we welcome the person people want to hear from, want to see, want to talk to, the one and only Kachine Alexander.
Hi, guys.
How are you, Kachine?
I'm good. How are you guys?
I'm doing good. How you doing after that game? You
got
anything to say off the bat?
I thought I'd never say in a million years that our defense won us a game, but here we are. Here we are.
If it weren't for late free throws, this game would have been in the 50s on both sides. If it weren't for late free throws.
Yes, it was stressful. I'm not surprised it was stressful, but it was stressful. Just because of the sheer physicality and the defensive mind that West Virginia is known for and they play with. So I knew it would be a tough one. I wasn't expecting us to shoot so bad. But at the end of the day, thank God for our defense. Because without our defense, this would be a completely different conversation we're about to have. If we did not start off like that. It kept us in the game when we weren't shooting well. There were a few people that went missing today offensively, but I mean, I gotta hand it to Gabbie. She was like a bully out there. I had not seen that from her. She was like mixing it up with folks. It was a little shocking. Obviously she didn't give us nothing on offense, but you know what? Defensively, she helped us tremendously. I wasn't quite sure why we weren't taking advantage of Hannah in the high post. Like, what was the message? Like, it seemed like Hannah had a message from the coaches that at the high post, she's supposed to be looking for these things, because she never turned and faced the basket, not once. So I was like, what was the game plan there? But overall, I have to say I'm a little happy, because I was nervous at the beginning of March Madness that if we had a bad shooting night, we would be out of here, because our defense is horrible. So the fact that our defense won us this game gives me a little hope.
They're going to play better offensive teams as we go forward, right?
I said just a little hope now.
Yeah. No. And for the record, let me just say this, Kachine, because I had our guy Kyle texting me. I had a couple people bantering back and forth with me during this one. And I'm off. It just seems like I am often on the opposite end of the Hawkeye spectrum during some of these close games, because honestly, basically this entire game, I'm not that discouraged. Like, I know some people are going to look at this, he scored 64, struggled to shoot, barely beat an 8 seed. I'm not at all discouraged by this game, because we've seen Iowa struggle to shoot in the past, and they typically snap out of that. Go back to games against Kansas State, go back to the game against Nebraska. They've had games where they've had really low scoring outputs. Heck, they didn't score a lot down in Charlotte against Virginia Tech back in November. But I think the way they pushed through that, and this was a game of ebbs and flows. You talk about runs in that first quarter, Iowa scoring 20 points in spite of a really solid effort defensively from the Mountaineers. And they come back in the second quarter. West Virginia holds Iowa to 6 points. Then Iowa responds in the third quarter. They get it to double digits a couple different times. And then West Virginia comes back and ties the game late in the fourth. I know Kyle reached out to me during the game and said he thought this game was a coin flip at one point late in the game. And I was never that worried. Like, I was stressed out as a fan, but like when it was tied, I still felt like Iowa was going to win. And maybe that's just me being even more of a homer. I don't know. What were you feeling when West Virginia had tied this game up late?
I probably was on your side. I wasn't like, I wasn't as confident as you, but I also wasn't. You said Kyle text you. I wasn't Kyle either. I was like in the middle, because I knew that the reason that they got tied up is because defensively we were just leaving people wide the hell open. So it wasn't like they were doing anything crazy. They weren't like, we were legitimately leaving people wide open. So I felt like, okay, if we just get back to what we were doing, which would be an easy transition, we should be fine. Emphasis on we should be fine. But it is March Madness. Okay, I've seen crazier things happen. So that's why I was a little bit like, oh, Lord, okay, this is a little too close for comfort. Right? Like, but at the same time, I didn't think it was a coin flip. I wouldn't go that far.
Let me give you some.
And I'm going to say why.
Okay.
They were so aggressive. All we had to do was drive, and we were going to get to the free throw line. So, like, for me, when you're in that kind of game, it's easy to score points at the end of a game, because really all you have to do is drive. That's it. And you're probably going to get a call, because they were all over us. So, and the refs were already calling it that way anyway. So in my mind, I kept saying, okay, well, long story short, just drive to the basket. We'll get to the free throw line. We'll get points that way. So I felt comfortable. If they weren't like that, and they were like a team that was like, just a solid defensive team that you couldn't rely on them fouling you, I would have been a little bit more nervous.
I got a number of notes. And by the way, we can get our phone line open. Iowa Smokehouse, proud sponsors of our show, and our phone line. They're the ones that make the phone calls possible. The line is open. I saw someone tried to call, but for some reason I did not receive it in our system. So give us a call. Okay, now we've got our call line going. So we're going to put our caller on hold. If you do get into the line, we've only got 2 open phone lines. You'll hear the on hold signal, and that is your cue that you are in the show, but not a part of it yet. So we just got our second caller, so we're going to put that caller on hold. The StreamYard line is open. We got a couple people wanting to talk to Kachine. I want to run through a few notes that I had, and then Kachine, if you have anything to say to start with. We've got about 650 people, and that number is growing. People are obviously hyped up right now about this one, and rightfully so. Iowa advancing to the second weekend yet again for the second straight season, and they'll play Colorado yet again for the second straight season. So we can talk about that later. But a couple things early. I thought Lisa Bluter hit the nail on the head at halftime. Way too many turnovers in this one. And honestly, they cleaned it up a little bit late, but like third quarter wasn't much better. I'm waiting for the official box score from the NCAA. Way too many what I would call lopping, Lopping passes, dumb passes. Bluter commented on that as they were going to the locker room. You mentioned very little help to ball pressure on Hannah Stuelke at times. I thought in that first quarter as a whole, West Virginia, just like Holy Cross, executed really well defensively, but Iowa found ways to score. I give them credit. Like I was at the end of the first quarter, I'm like, all right, like they scored 20 in spite of a really good effort from West Virginia, and then things kind of tanked in that second quarter. Iowa got sloppier. As I said earlier, scored 6 points total. And like I said, in the end, it came down to the last 2 to 3 minutes who was more keyed in at the end. And eventually, you mentioned the officiating. I know people in the arena, you could tell the people in the arena were not pleased with officiating. I'm going to probably be the minority in this. I did not think the officiating was bad all night. I thought it was a little bit inconsistent from one half to the other, right? Like they really let them play in the first, and all of a sudden they started blowing the whistle in the second. But I don't think it was lopsided like one way or the other. Now, if you're upset about the officiating from a standpoint of it favored West Virginia's style, sure, absolutely, right? Like if you're going to let them have a dogfight, a wrestling match, that favors West Virginia every time. But some games are called a certain way, and I felt like one half was called differently than the second half. Just your thoughts on officiating, I guess, Kachine.
As a fan, I understand what they meant. However, refs cannot call everything, or else there would be no players on to play. So I knew from the get-go that we would have to be strong because refs have to adapt no matter the situation, because you can't end the game with nobody. And West Virginia kind of plays like that, where they're going to have hands all over. They could have called a foul every single time we had the ball because their hands were just constantly on us. So it's not going to happen. They're not going to do it. They're only going to call the more egregious ones. And I thought that they did do that. There was a couple weird ones that happened with Hannah and the post players that I was like, what the heck? What just happened? Like they were just sprawled over the floor. I didn't know what was going on. But either way, there was some weird kind of activity that was going on every once in a while. And I think if I was surprised by it, they were probably surprised by it because I didn't know what transpired. It was just bodies. So I didn't think it was that bad, honestly. I think that the refs, that's a tough game to ref. It just is. With all of the hand checking and you're trying to not let it get out of hand, but at the same time, you can't call it too tight. So, I mean, they did the best that they could in that aspect. As far as like you were talking about our turnovers, I just didn't understand why we were trying to force the ball to Caitlin to start our offense.
I agree.
What there we had probably like 5 or 6 turnovers trying to force her the ball. Let her come off some screens. Somebody else do it. Like it just, and again, this is where we miss Molly, which I'm sure everybody was thinking, because at the end of the day, she could have been the point guard and figure out the rest of it. And I think that affected Kate. Because like I said, remember I said this in the Nebraska game, Kate is good at what Kate does. And she could not do that because she was bringing the ball up and other people were bringing the ball up, and it took her out of her rhythm. Unfortunately for us, that's what happened.
I don't think everybody was thinking what you just said, but I thought what you just said, you hit the nail on the head as it relates to
I think
Molly
so.
Davis.
I think everybody was thinking about Molly.
You know,
No way.
all I know is people live in the moment, Kachine, and over the last few games when Gabbie's been, making some threes and, she hasn't been putting together goose eggs, people have kind of been, and obviously Sydney Affolter's been really productive. They kind of forget about
Yeah.
the impact that a ball handling Molly Davis can have. And I absolutely agree with you. I think she would have been, for them to get through this game without Molly Davis is huge, because to have another person who could generate and facilitate, they do not have that when Caitlin Clark's being covered. The best they have is Kate Martin, maybe Sydney Affolter. Kylie Feuerbach's didn't really play much tonight. They're kind of like all one and the same as it relates to ball handling, I think, and facilitating. Having Molly would have been huge.
Yeah.
And
It would have
I'll say
changed
this
the game
too.
for us.
And there was a possession in that first half. I tweeted out about it. I know it was highlighted by the ESPN crew. And you probably are thinking about the same possession where Hannah Stuelke was, first of all, I think it was an offensive rebound. I think may have just been off of an inbounds play, but I know the shot clock was about 10 seconds when she got the ball over toward the far baseline along the far sideline along that West Virginia bench. And she picked up her dribble, which first cardinal sin in that situation, in my opinion, is picking up her dribble at all there. And of course, West Virginia's swarming Caitlin Clark. And you're right, nobody comes to help her. She lobs a pass over to Caitlin. Should have been intercepted. Somehow Caitlin gets it, and then the clock's down to 3, and Caitlin and Kate Martin don't know where the shot clock is, and it's a shot clock violation. Yeah. It's one of the worst possessions I've seen from Iowa offensively all year. So I am curious, not to jump ahead here, but Michael in the chat made this comment very early. West Virginia showcased how to beat Iowa. I would agree with that to an extent, but I want your opinion, Kachine, because I don't think there are a ton of teams that can bring it quite like West Virginia does defensively. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think they had 3 guards who were, it's like, if we want to be candid, right? It's like having 3 Gabbie Marshalls on the perimeter. They're just pests. All they do is they're in your stuff. They're this, they're here, they're everywhere, right? And of course, there were some of them that had a little bit more strength than Gabbie does, but I don't know many teams that have 3 guards that are just like that. They were rotating their 3 guards on Caitlin. I don't think there's any team who would be able to do that. Even if you do LSU, you still got Haley Van Lith, who we know can't guard nobody. So there's that. And then who else? The freshman is a little bit slower in the foot. So it's like I don't know if anybody that we're passing has the defensive pressure like that. Maybe, and that's a maybe, South Carolina could up the pressure a little bit, but I don't think there's anybody else who even has the. Yeah, no. I mean, I get what he's saying though. That's definitely our weak point. But then again, I don't also think we're prepared for it. We spent so much time on the damn the press that when we got to half court, it's like we lost our minds. So it's like, oh, we broke the press. Now what? I felt like there was so much emphasis from Lisa Bluter in practice about this press that we almost forgot to talk about our half court offense. That's just my take.
And I agree with T. Nelson. And I'm going to be, in this case, a little bit more optimistic than maybe some, because
me and you both.
Surviving and advancing in this tournament, Kachine, is the name of the game.
Yes, it is.
And again, stylistically, West Virginia is a bad matchup for Iowa. Now, Colorado is also a bad matchup for Iowa. But Kansas State would have been a bad matchup for Iowa. We've discussed this. The committee didn't do Iowa any favors with this draw. Iowa came out against a feisty Holy Cross team, was tested early, passed that test. They came out tonight. Who would have thought that an Iowa team would be in the 50s with about a minute and a half to go, and yet somehow they would still win that ball game? They found a way to do that. Now, they had a heavy Iowa crowd. I have no doubt Iowa will travel to Albany, but it won't be the same as Carver. But surviving and advancing is the name of the game. So I think to some extent you can be encouraged by this. And I mean, we're going to preview Colorado toward the tail end of the show, but Jalen Sherrod and Quay Miller, and I mean, Vonleh. They've got size, they've got athleticism, they've got physicality, which gives Iowa problems. But
Do
you're
not
going to
expect
face that
Gabbie
at
to
some
be a
point.
factor.
Say it again.
Do not expect Gabbie to be an offensive factor in that game.
Well, she wasn't an offensive. That's why she wasn't an offensive factor tonight.
Not going to happen. Not when she chasing Sherrod all over the court. It's not going to happen.
Didn't we kind of know? Kachine, I didn't text you about this at the beginning of the game, but didn't you kind of know? Like, I kind of felt like early it was like, okay, it's obvious Gabbie's not going to be scoring points tonight. Like, maybe she gets a couple of threes, and that's just, it is a reality of it. Like, we've talked about this before as it relates to offense. If Gabbie's not wide open from three, she really doesn't offer anything on offense.
Well, so, one thing I've noticed about Gabbie in her games, and I've kind of looked at it because she's been a topic of discussion, is that whenever Gabbie has a tough defensive assignment, she's not effective offensively. Majority of the time. There are some times she can pick it up or she can provide us with something here or there, but a lot of the times it's very hard because you're chasing their best player around the court. Like, you're going to get tired. And then we're expecting you to knock down open threes. I'm not giving her excuses by any means. However, it's just something I've noticed, which is why I said that it's going to be tough for her to chase probably the fastest player that they have experienced this year and expect her to knock down open threes. I'm going to pray, however, that she could at least provide us with one or two. But I'm also aware of the energy that she is going to have to put out there to keep her at bay.
Is it fair to say that they're going to be playing a lot of zone against Colorado?
Colorado can shoot it, though. They've got the redhead girl who can shoot it. They've got, I think her name is Waylon, or her last name is Waylon or Waylene or something like that. She's a transfer. She can shoot it. Sherrod, she's not, I mean, she's hit or miss, but she's capable if she gets hot. So possibly, I think they're going to have to mix it up a little bit. I don't think they could just sit in zone the whole time. No. Okay. I don't think that's going to work. But I do think they're going to have to mix it up a little bit. Because, like I said, I don't think we got anybody to guard Sherrod. We can guard the rest of them. But
that's the only reason. That's part of the reason why I said I think you're going to be seeing a lot of zone. Now, they can shoot you out of the zone. West Virginia almost shot Iowa out of the zone a couple times tonight, and that's not a team that you expect to be a real great three-point shooting team. But, like, if Gabbie's going to be guarding Sherrod, and Gabbie in the man-to-man, that's not a favorable matchup for Iowa. I mean, she's going to be a pest, especially when Sherrod doesn't have the ball in her hands.
Right.
But I am nervous about that matchup once Sherrod gets isolation to work on Gabbie Marshall. That's what I would say. Now, want to comment on that?
No, I mean, I agree. I don't think that's her favorable matchup. I will say this. Did anybody notice that our zone looked completely different today?
Well, the halftime crew highlighted the little bit of the box in one or box in two that they were.
Yeah, I know that. But there was a time where our zone almost looked like a 1-3-1. And I was like, well, this is a different matchup we've got going on here. I haven't seen this setup first. I liked it because I felt like it was more of a matchup and not like a traditional 2-3 zone. And I think that is what helped us in the beginning because our girls weren't playing like, if Kate's on the back line, she wasn't just worried about them. Sometimes she had to come up with the cutter. That helped us a little bit. Everybody else flattened out. And I liked the way we were running our zone compared to that traditional 2-3 where you just play your position. I ain't like that too much. But we'll see. This is going to be an interesting game. Survive in advance. We're going to have to gut this one out. Hey, we're going to have to gut the rest of the tournament out. What I'm talking about.
The bottom line, and the reason I think Iowa fans need to hold off on pressing the panic button. Obviously, you have every right to be concerned matchup-wise, draw-wise. We've talked about that. We knew that heading into the tournament. But let's not forget, UCLA struggled tonight. They finally overcame Creighton. LSU has struggled. They struggled against Rice game 1. You had UConn. UConn was down to, it was a 2-point game late against Syracuse at home. Just push the brakes on panicking right now. And by the way, Colorado, it took a half for them to kind of get momentum against Drake, and Drake's a good team, but there's a lot more. It's very, that's what makes this game so great. The women's college basketball game right now is just at an all-time high because there is so much more parity, I think, across the board. And maybe South Carolina is the best team and they'll run the gauntlet and win this whole thing. But I think there's lots of teams. West Virginia demonstrated that there's lots of teams that on a single night can compete with just about anybody. Let's go to our first Iowa Smokehouse caller of the day. James is with us. He was right.
I'm right here. My bad. I'm right here. You can hear me?
We got you.
Sorry, I was doing something. First off, I was looking at Twitter, and I think it's funny how a lot of West Virginia fans are complaining about like it being 30-5 on free throws. I don't think they understand how the game works. The fact that when you sit in zone, a lot of times you're not going to foul as much, and they were shooting a lot of threes, so we're not going to foul as much for them to get to the free throw line because they're shooting a lot of mid-range and 3-point shots. So in that case, you don't foul a lot when you're, especially when you're in triangle 2, you foul even less because it gets them a lot of mid-range and 3-point looks. I just think that's funny, but
Kachine,
it's not funny. It's just people being uneducated.
I think it's funny because people are uneducated. That's what I mean. People don't know the game and they try to act like they know the game. And it's like, if you don't know what you're talking about, then don't really
I will say, though, I will say for the Iowa fans that want to claim that it was poorly officiated, I'm not
saying that. I'm just saying.
No, hold on. Let me finish that. I would direct you to the box score because it is fair to say, well, Iowa took 30 free throws to West Virginia's 5. But I also am not going the other side of that pendulum either, James, and claiming that it was poorly officiated one way or the other. It was a result of how those two teams were playing. And again, I think at halftime, it seemed like the officials maybe had a little huddle at halftime, and whether that was a unspoken thing or not, the whistles changed in the second half.
Yeah, it was ugly, but sometimes you have to win ugly, to win games, and especially in a tournament like this, you have to win ugly. And even when you get down farther in the season, you definitely have to find a ways to win ugly. And to make it a 10-point lead the way they did, and even they didn't really get down. Like when even West Virginia's making those runs, you never really seen them get down. They still had that confidence. They still were like, we can do this. Like 15 turnovers. What they had, 15 or 16? What was the turnover number? Do you know? I think it was like 15 in that area, right?
Yeah, Iowa for the
game. Too much.
Turnovers.
Yeah, that's too much. But that's definitely too much, especially for what they're doing. And Hannah, one time too, would like to see her do is maybe like take one dribble, relocate herself, and try to find somebody else open instead of standing right there with Caitlin's there, because then you have two girls right next to you because Caitlin's right behind you trying to get the ball. And it's like nobody's moving and she's just standing there and she didn't like take a dribble or anything to try to move. And nobody's really guarding her and they're doubling Caitlin and they just leave Caitlin and guard her and kind of stop her from doing anything.
Well, I think teams are understanding to the scouting report in that Hannah Stuelke is not asked to dribble ever. And that is a little bit of a problem. Like, I'm serious. Like, you don't think West Virginia knew that, Kachine? That, hey, if we get this girl into a place where she's got to create herself, she ain't going to do it.
Why was she out there to begin with?
You tell me. You're the former All Big Ten.
I don't know. Listen, nowhere. It can't be anywhere in any of their press baking half-court offense was it to be Hannah out anywhere out there. Anywhere. Nowhere. Well, it can't be.
Yeah, maybe they put it out there to try to match their big, and I know their big on foul trouble, Blackstein, whatever her name was, Blackstein, whatever her name was. I don't know, maybe that's why she was out there to start the game, obviously, because you want to match her up with that. But then later on in the game, you kind of realize it too. If you put away a little bit, you can put her back in because they're not going to press as much and maybe play it that kind of way. But yeah, I'm just glad they won, and it was really kind of nerve-wracking, but I also had faith in them having it. And like Corey said, LSU struggled a little bit, UCLA struggled a little bit. So I think this is kind of a region that you can look at. Maybe it's everybody struggled kind of, maybe not Colorado. I haven't watched Colorado yet, but everybody else in this region struggled a little bit in their game. So,
I mean, we all did say that it was the toughest region. So what do we expect to happen?
Yeah. Yeah. And Creighton's dangerous.
Yeah. Yep.
And so UCLA survived that test. Anything else, James?
No, it's just, no, It's good to get the win, and we play Saturday next, right? Or do we not
Yeah.
know yet? Is it not out?
Yes,
It says Saturday.
time TBA. It sounds like it's going to be an afternoon game.
Sounds good. Enjoy your night, and glad to get the win. And I'm glad that we didn't lose in Caitlin Clark and Gabbie and Kate's last game at home. That would have been even more treacherous. So last game to ever play in that court. So it was always good to get that win and on to Albany, and we'll see what happens.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate the phone call. Robert, RC, you're on here too. I couldn't handle Sess anymore. Too much Clark bashing. What's your page called? What does that mean? I don't know.
They was in here talking during the game.
Okay. All right. All right, let's go back to our phone lines. We've got, let's go back to our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. Who's on the line?
Hi, this is Annie from Brooklyn, New York.
Hey, Annie, how are you?
Okay, that was some game, huh?
Yes.
Oh, that game had me on edge the whole game. But I do agree with what you said about the refs. I think they were pretty fair because I thought the defense, West Virginia's defense, was like all over the court. I mean, from the beginning. They kept switching guards. They were putting the quickest people on Caitlin. They looked like a bunch of ants all over that court. Yeah. And I thought they were physical. But like you said, I think it balanced out. So I agree with you. I think that's a very good point. I think the officiating was not a big factor in this game.
Honestly, Annie, I thought, I mean, I know I said this kind of at the outset. I thought West Virginia executed their game plan almost to a T throughout this game. Like they executed almost as well. I think the one thing that they would say probably in hindsight is, man, I wish we could have not been in such dire foul trouble in the last 5 minutes of the game. But that's partially the risk you run when you're playing that style and you're getting physical and up in their stuff. But they gave themselves a chance late.
Yeah, their defense was so aggressive right from the get-go. I thought we were going to have trouble with that. But, I like how Iowa stayed calm. They stayed well under pressure. They came through. They didn't go into panic mode. And their foul shooting kind of won the game for them, I thought, near the end, just my opinion.
Agree. Kachine,
they were hitting from the line.
Kachine, talk a little bit
from the line.
What Annie said is fair. The free throw shooting, not panicking with the ball. I think part of that is good leadership from your players. Part of that's coaching, right? Having your
they stayed very poised under pressure, and when they came through from the line, they came through at the line, and I think that made a big difference down the run to win the game.
I mean, they've been there before,
I think,
in that situation. So I think that helps a lot. And on top of that, I mean, kudos to Hannah. Kudos to, I think, Caitlin and Sydney, I believe, was part of that free throw.
Sure.
Thing that got us going. So, and how big was Sid with the handling?
I just think Gabbie could get, a little hot with those outside shots because she does get open a lot. She wasn't falling. But, let's hope it falls next round because she.
You know what I wish? I know it's not going to happen, but I just wish is that she would just pump fake and go to the basket because they are flying out at her. I'm talking.
Does she have that in her arsenal?
That is why I said wish, Corey.
Okay. All right.
I said wish.
You said I wish she would, not I
wish she would. Could. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. Okay. I'm just saying that I just wish that she would because when I say flying out, Corey, like they have no stability in their closeout. Like zero. She could just take one dribble pull up if she don't want to go all the way to the rim or go to the rim and dump off.
You don't see her trying to penetrate and drive to the hoop a lot, And she has
so much easier for her. It would be so much easier for her. But you know what?
Yeah.
I digress.
Wayfarer of the Wilderness says that was the worst officiated game he's ever seen. He expects an investigation. A thorough investigation, and Annie might be the FBI. So that's what our friend Wayfarer of the Wilderness says.
I think I agree with you. The way you opened the show, I thought it was, as physical as the defense was, especially in the beginning. I think they kept the calls intact. I do. I think they made the calls pretty fair on each end. I agree with you.
And again, I go back to the national championship game last year, and I know there were some improprieties there, discrepancies. There was some info released later on that indicated that game was not fairly officiated.
No, it definitely was.
But my point in bringing that game up is that's what you're going to get at times in this tournament. And so sometimes you got to figure out a way to win in spite of either an unfair whistle or a whistle that doesn't favor you. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I think being able to play through that is helpful, especially this first weekend. And like I said, Holy Cross gave him some problems game one, especially Caitlin in the man-to-man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But I didn't think there were any really super controversial calls tonight, which was good, which is a good thing.
I agree with
what I mean.
I agree with you, Annie.
Nice to see you back, Kachine. We missed you.
Thanks. Like to hear you call in.
All right. You guys take good care. Thanks for taking my call. Let's go, Hawks, and let's do this.
Hey, Annie, you going to go be at the game in Albany?
No, Albany is about 4 hours from Brooklyn.
Okay.
It's
well, that's
far.
closer. That's closer than
upstate New York is a whole different entity. It's nowhere near the city.
Okay. Well,
yeah, and I don't even know if I'd be able to get tickets.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure the ticket prices are rising by the second. I appreciate you calling in,
Forget
Annie.
about it. We love watching it on TV anyway.
Yep. Appreciate you calling in, Annie.
Yeah. Yeah. Take care, you guys. Good luck, and let's go Hawks.
Let's go Hawks. Appreciate that. Kachine, did you have something here? Let's see.
I just wrote it.
Let's see. All right. I'm going to take just a second. All right. Lemansky with the super chat. Corey, have you complimented Cash on her fashionista outfit?
Oh, you like my Snuggie?
Is it a Snuggie?
It sure is.
Man, Snuggie is not a sponsor of this show. But when I read this comment,
honestly, I don't really know if it's the name of it, but that's what I call it because it seems like it.
Yeah, like when he made this comment, the first thing I thought is she's wearing a Snuggie.
I sure am, and it's very comfortable, you guys. It's amazing.
Tragus 44. Iowa had an incredible amount of pressure in this game, being the last home game for the seniors. Didn't have shots falling, and yet they won. This win will help them grow for future games. I think we both can agree with that, Kachine.
Yeah.
And do you have any thoughts to provide? Are you a little surprised that we didn't see more of either Addison or AJ? Like 3 minutes for Addison. AJ didn't see the court in a game this physical, and it was I thought, a difficult game for Hannah Stuelke at different times in the game. But obviously it seemed like Iowa, the staff didn't see a reason to put in a true 5. Were you surprised by that?
A little bit. I didn't feel like this was a game that Addison or Ettinger could have not played in. Like it wasn't a fast-paced game. It wasn't like anything of that sort. So I was a little shocked by that. Now, warranted, Grady didn't play well while she was in there either. So maybe that is why they decided to go with that. And Hannah was grabbing boards left and right and giving us extra possessions. I still think that she could have gotten at least like 10 minutes, but hey, who am I?
Yeah. Let's go back to our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame with Kachine Alexander. Who's on the line?
Hi, this is Pat.
Hey, Pat.
Good to talk to you, Corey and Cash. Thanks for putting on the show. And to me, a great win by the Hawks tonight against a really good team, coach, and put up a good effort. So I do have a question that's a bit off topic. I've been watching women's basketball a little more closely, and I've been bemoaning the quality of the officiating. It just doesn't seem as good, and I've been thinking about that. So I'm really curious to hear Cash's thoughts. So I've come to the conclusion that I don't necessarily think that the officiating is worse. I've come to the conclusion that possibly the women's college game is more difficult to officiate than the men's college game. And I'll posit 2 reasons for that. I think the ball handling skills of women's basketball players is less polished than men. And what I mean by that the strength is not as good to control the ball and to control the space where they're dribbling the ball. That's one reason. And the second reason is because the game is played more below the rim than above the rim. So that's my only question. I'll hang up, but I'd love to hear Cash's thoughts on that. Or maybe they're just not as good officials. So thanks for taking my call. Good luck to the Hawks in the next round. And Cash, appreciate your thoughts. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you, Pat. Interesting
So,
take.
I think that I've kind of talked about this before, and I'm going to stick to my thoughts on this. So men's basketball has kind of been the same since we've known it, right? They might have gotten stronger, but it's still the same kind of basketball, meaning above the rim, athletic, the whole nine, right? We've seen this. It's not really changed. The women's game has evolved from even back when I was playing to now. The type of player is different. The skill is different, better. This is what I'm saying when I say that. Everything is better. The one thing that I have noticed is that these refs are still the same refs refereeing when I was playing.
Sure.
And a lot of the times it's very hard to transition because you have been dealing with my caliber of players as a whole, right? Now you're dealing with Caitlin Clark's, Angel Reese's, all of those kinds of play. Cameron Brinks, we didn't have any of those then either. So I think that Juju Watkins, all of those players, and the game itself, and even everybody else, the game itself has evolved tremendously. And I think that we do not have enough young refs that have started reffing during this time. So they are trying to catch up to not only the speed of the game, but the quality of player of the game. Because like I said, there are refs that I see that are still reffing from when I was playing. That's absurd. So that's my take on it, because I don't think we've always had this scenario where the refs have always been terrible. No, I don't believe that. But I feel like since the game has gotten better, faster, stronger, more skilled, we're starting to see that the refs can't keep up. That's my take. Take it or leave it.
That's a brilliant answer to what Pat said and the question. And I thought it was a well thought out question. I do want to ask you on the Gabbie Marshall topic you talked about, and I think maybe some of your observations are anecdotal without going back and tracing each game that Gabbie has played at Iowa and each defensive matchup, translating that over, comparing her offensive stats. But you were all Big Ten as a defensive player, but you also were a really good offensive player. How do you do that? And there are examples of that in the men's game, in the pros, wherever you're looking. There are examples of players that are really good on one end and really good on the other end. And those are some of the greatest players that play the game. But how do you do that? I mean, is it just a purely fitness and endurance? How do you cash in on both ends? No pun intended.
Yeah, right. I was a stickler with strength and conditioning, so much so that I was a strength and conditioning All-American my junior year. I was a big stickler on that because I saw how it transformed not only myself but my game. And so for me, that was the biggest thing, is not only playing defense but crashing the boards every time. Or, I didn't shoot threes like Gabbie's supposed to, but on the other end, I still had to drive and create, and I also had to, crash the boards every time we put a shot up. But for me, a lot of it, I would say, starts with fitness, right? I will say that. And it starts with strength conditioning, because your legs take a beating, running people off the line, doing things like that, and then having to turn around and shoot the basketball. So that, number one, I think is a big thing. And two, I don't think that we haven't been as heavy on Gabbie, I feel like, as we are this year. We had Monica. We had other options last year. If she decided not to shoot three, guess what? We was going to punch it into Monica and she was going to get us a bucket. You know what I'm saying? So I think we were like, oh, it'd be nice. if she would shoot the ball well. This year, it's like a must, or we're not winning. So I think there's a little bit more emphasis on it this year than it was last year. And I think that we're seeing some of the, what's the word I want to use? Some of her low moments in regards to that, because she does get tired. I saw her mouth in the Nebraska game that she had no legs. And I'm like, what? You not have legs? Like, what? But then it was like, okay, that is a thing. That does happen. How many times did we ask if something was wrong with Caitlin's legs? It does happen.
Right.
But I think that for me is a little bit more where we're seeing it now than it was last year, because we didn't depend on her as much.
Folks, if you want to ask the great Kachine Alexander a question here, as Iowa, we talk about Iowa's second round win in the NCAA tournament and an advancement to the Sweet 16, where they'll take on Colorado, the Buffaloes, next Saturday out in Albany. There's a couple ways to do that. Call 515-635-1601, or as of right now, actually, that line, both those lines are taken up. So if you want to get in right now, StreamYard is the best way to do that. There's a StreamYard link in the description, right at the top of the description, folks. Very easy to sign in with Google or Facebook. You don't have to have your face on camera if you don't want. But I'm sure Kachine and I would both love to see you and hear from you. So again, Iowa Smokehouse call-in line is here for the taking if you want to ask Kachine Alexander a question. Let's go to our next caller who's been on hold. Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame with Kachine Alexander, who's on the line.
This is Jacob. How you doing?
Hey, Jacob. I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad. Got a few questions, but first I got to say, for my daughter who is 11, Kachine, a few weeks ago we caught up on some post-game videos, and she wanted me to let you know that she really likes your makeup and your nails, how you do those.
Thank you.
I was inspired to let you know that.
Can I, real quick, let me interrupt you and then I'll let you go, sir. I want to make sure, not let you go, but I mean, let you have the floor. Make sure you ask your daughter about how she feels on Kachine's Snuggie, because she broke out the Snuggie for the camera tonight.
I sure did. That's how stressed I was. Snuggie.
Oh. Well, she's in bed. Maybe in the next few days, I'll put this on to have her see what she says.
Definitely.
And for you, Corey, I'm just glad that we don't have to hear about anything to do with the Mavs so far.
They won tonight. Well, or somehow
putting Luka in the same sentence as Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. So
who did that?
We have to at least go with that.
Who did that?
Okay, a little bit out of context.
Corey did.
Okay, out of context. You're putting that statement out of context, but go on with what you're saying. Mavs did win tonight, by the way, in Salt Lake City. Go ahead.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I guess we can't get through a Hawkeye review without talking about the Mavs, but great. My question, though, is for Kate Martin specifically tonight. I don't think I've seen a game in the last few years of hers where, offensively speaking, was almost clueless, like had no idea, not moving, not driving, or when she was driving, it was out of control. I mean, she probably could have got 2 or 3 carries called on her during the game. And when she had an open shot, there's a few times she had an open shot, she hesitated, then went to the basket and got called for travel. So what do you think what happened with Kate specifically? Because usually if something's not going right and Caitlin's doing okay, Kate can step up and take some of the load. But tonight, she looked literally like she was in a deep, dark forest on the offensive end.
Well, that's what pressure does for you. It speeds you up. That's the whole purpose of a pressure defense, is to speed up people who are not used to it. Kate's not used to it. So I think for her, this is why we said Molly would have been huge, because it would have took the weight off of Kate tonight in regards to helping Caitlin, with the ball handling. And I think that hindered her quite a bit. Because like you said, normally she would be more poised. Normally she would have the time to shoot the ball instead of making all of these rushed decisions. But because the defense was helter-skelter, so was she.
I don't get to read a lot of other or consume a lot of other Hawkeye content. I just don't have time anymore. But I did happen to read an article from it might have been the Des Moines Register. I don't want to misquote that, but the statement was made here in the last week that recently, with Molly out, we've seen Taylor McCabe run the point at times. And I was like, what are you talking about? And then I was watching the Holy Cross game the other day. I'm like, okay, there are times where when Taylor's in the game, she's taking the ball up the court. But I think that's a good example of they don't have anything. We were talking about concerns moving forward after this season with Clark and Molly both gone. Like, who's going to be the point guard in general? When you have like Kachine said, when you have a defense that's dead set on keeping the ball out of Caitlin's hands, and they have the bodies to do it, boy, that's what makes this win, I think, even more impressive. They found a way around that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, no, you're right. Any tough win in a tough environment, even though you're at home, it was a tough environment because that is what West Virginia was doing to us. They completely put us out in an area we've never been before on our home court. But because it was just so much indecision, because indecision is worse than bad decision. And not just having any kind of flow to the game. I mean, Kate specifically, because I almost wondered if her being so out of sorts in a way, if that was feeding on to other players. If feeling like, hey, if our glue is struggling and we can see it, do they lose confidence? Do they have that just a little bit of doubt? And does that just go right through the team in wildfire and kind of brings everybody to confidence level low? Because she usually can bring it up.
I would hope not, because that don't make no sense. Because yes, she is the glue. I can 100% agree with that statement. But we're all human and we all have bad games. Kate has had bad games before. And so I think that as far as everyone else is concerned, I really, truly, wholeheartedly believe that defense messed us up. I feel like, not us. Okay, like, I think it really forced Caitlin's hand a little bit. And I think it really took Kate out of what she likes to do. How many backdoor cuts did you see Kate take today?
I saw a few, and miraculously, the ball always went out of bounds when being thrown to her.
Yep, because the defense...
Always a turnover.
The defense is what speeds everyone up. And Kate is used... She gets 4 to 5 scores off of backdoors. And not to mention the ones that she gets and kicks out. We're not even talking about that. Like, that is what Kate does. She cuts through the defense. She slices them up. But today she was so focused on the zone, so focused on the press that it took her completely out of her game, unfortunately. And maybe that was something she needed to do. I'm not 100% sure, because if she didn't help with the press, where did that leave us? So I'm not sure.
Even when she got the ball in the press, it was just weird to see, because normally she knows what to do with the ball in a certain situation. But when she was getting the ball, to the either side of the courts in the press, her first dribble was always like a high dribble, kind of like a hesitant dribble. And then she had to go up and get it. And it was kind of like, hey, Kate, you know what to do here. You've been in this position before. What's going on?
Yeah.
Her last home game mixed with everything else that comes with that.
And again,
okay,
I think the pressure that comes with having to have the ball in your hands a lot more then you'd prefer. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
those are my thoughts. But
Well, thank you for taking my call. And Kachine, can you just clarify for the record now that at this time, maybe in 10 years' time, it might be different, but at this time, Luka does not deserve to be in the sentence of Michael, Jeffrey Jordan, and Kobe Bryant.
can
Am I
you
correct on that?
can you clarify when I said
You
that?
don't even deserve to be in the conversations with LeBron James. So no.
Thank you. So you're talking about last week about fouls, about
Right.
technical fouls when players get teed up.
Yes, that's
And,
what I was talking about. And I said the best
And
players
then
in the
you
world.
brought up
Luka Doncic is one.
Kobe and Michael,
Yes.
right?
Uh-huh.
Which it is still a little foggy why you brought them up too for technicals. I still
We'll
wasn't
have
clear
to pull
for
up
that.
the tape. All I know is that right now, Luka Doncic is one of the best players in the NBA. There is no debating that at all.
Yeah.
Okay. He's one of 3 players right now that is going to win MVP this year, right now. So as of right now, he's one of the best players in the world. Now, as it relates to that comment, I'll have to go back and look to see what that was regarding. If it was regarding complaining, or because he complains a lot. I've openly admitted that, and I am a Mavs fan. Did you know that was a
Michael
Mavs
Jordan
fan?
ain't complain like that. So that can't be what you was talking about.
Say that again, Kachine.
Michael Jordan does not complain like that. So you can't
No,
be talking about that.
no, I'm not saying he. No, I've compared and contrasted the different eras and how much. I don't know what the comment I made the other day was in reference to, but anyways,
I'm with you now. Okay, Corey.
You do remember having them 3 in one sentence.
Yes, I do remember that.
That is blasphemy, Corey.
Well, I appreciate the strong counsel, sir.
Okay. Well, thank you for taking my call.
Absolutely.
And you guys have a good night.
You as well, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
You going to try to argue with me right now, Kachine, that Luka Doncic is not one of the best players in the world right now?
I didn't say anything about right now. I was just saying he is not in conversation with the other ones. That's all I said. Right now, yeah, I don't like Luka, but yeah, he is a phenomenal player, and he is one of the best in the NBA as of right now.
I ain't gonna ask you why you don't like Luka. We can talk about that off the air.
I don't like whiners. Never have. I don't even like LeBron for that reason. I like LeBron as a human being.
The whole NBA is full of whiners.
Hate it all. I hate
Caitlin
this
Clark
era.
is a whiner. Caitlin Clark is a whiner.
Soft. All of it is soft. You can't prove me any other. All of it is soft.
Hold on a second. Is Caitlin Clark a whiner?
Yes. 100%.
Do you like Caitlin Clark?
Can't stand her whining.
Okay, I can't either, but I still like Caitlin Clark. I'm open about that. I like Luka Doncic. I don't like his whining. One of the things I brought up the other day was that Luka Doncic gets teed up a lot. So he whines, he gets teed up. Caitlin Clark whines, she don't get teed up. That's the only thing I said.
I don't know what's going on. But no, I mean, listen, I can respect game and still not like it. That's the difference. I will give Luka, whoever, their props. I may not like how they handle themselves within that, but I still got to give you props where props are deserved.
All right, let's go back to our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. Before we do that, I want to take another moment to thank our sponsor, RTI Threads. Check out the gear, the Iowa baseball gear, and don't forget they've got football gear, player football gear for people like Zach Lutmer, the Grave Digger. That's Aaron Graves out of Southeast Valley, who's going to be a big part of that defensive line again this year. A bunch of people on the lineup there over at rtithreads.com. But if you have not purchased your Iowa baseball gear, go purchase a shirt, go purchase a hat, do something to support the cause. NIL is such a big thing now with recruiting and with just success on the field or on the court. Check it all out, iowabaseballswarm.com and rtithreads.com. Thank you to RTI Threads. All right, let's go back to our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. Who's on the line?
Hey, this is Chris from Lusk, Wyoming.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, Corey. Hey, Miss Kachine.
Hi.
Hi. I want to tell you that I went to my salon yesterday, and what did we talk about? Iowa basketball and Audie Crooks. So this woman's daughter is following Iowa basketball and Audie Crooks and knows all about it. So I thought that was pretty impressive. Yeah.
Kachine, go ahead, Chris.
Oh, I don't know. I shouldn't look. There's a delay, and when I watch the screen, it messes me up. So the game was really hard to watch for me, and also I'm worried about next week when we play Colorado. Really, really worried because they do pressure defense as well. And I watched their last game, and they shoot well too. And West Virginia didn't shoot well tonight. And also Denver News is my local news, so I get to hear what they're saying about the upcoming game. And they are ready. They are gunning for us. They still are upset about losing to us last year. So it's just heads up for everybody. Anyway, I want to know, and they shoot well, So if we play, Iowa plays like we did tonight, we don't have a chance. I'm just saying, unless Colorado has an off night. So I just want to know what Kachine and you too, Corey, what you think about what I think.
Kachine, what are your thoughts on the Colorado matchup? She compared those two teams. You know more about. I mean, we watched Colorado last year. I've watched some Colorado this year. Watched them against Drake here a few days ago. But I don't know that they're quite as physical as West Virginia.
No.
What does Colorado bring that's similar to what we saw tonight?
I think they have the capability of ramping up their defense. I don't think it's to the level of physicality we saw today. I think she's absolutely right that they have way more shooters than West Virginia does. And everybody should be nervous. If you're not nervous, I don't think you've been watching basketball long enough. Because one, we bounced them last year. So they're coming with a whole different attitude than anybody else. Number two, they did not have the season that they wanted to so far. So the idea of getting Iowa back, making it to the Elite Eight, they can turn their season around. Because the way they started versus the way they ended, you talked about it last time I was on here, about how Colorado ended the regular season. It was terrible. They were not good.
Yeah, they look terrible, but they don't look terrible now.
Nope. They've got their juju back, their mojo back a little bit. So I'm excited for the game because I love this time of year anyways. I've been watching basketball nonstop. So I'm very happy about it because it's just going to be a good, tough-nosed basketball game. Obviously, with us being Hawkeye fans, it's going to be a little stressful. Yep. But at the end of the day, it is going to be a good game. I don't think it's going to be like a 15-point kind of game. I don't.
No, I'm hoping it's close, but what does Iowa do to fix, what do we do to fix the shooting problem? I mean, usually at least one person is hitting threes besides Caitlin. And did anybody hit a three tonight besides Caitlin?
I have the answer to your question here. No.
That's what I thought.
No, Gabbie Marshall. Gabbie Marshall was 0 for 3. Kylie was 0 for 1. Sydney was 0 for 2. Kate was 0 for 2. They only took 22. I say only because Caitlin took 14.
Yeah.
But no, you're right.
I think that.
Anyway, I don't want to be downer, but I'm just like I'm going to be sending a lot of love their way, all kinds of energy their way because they're going to need it. I think.
You can be really.
It's really hard to watch the news and have them,
I think that's a good.
They don't really down.
I think that's a pretty cool perspective to be able to watch kind of follow the Colorado media leading up to this game because you got, what, 5 days?
Yeah. Yeah. And Colorado believes, it came out of the coach's mouth, that they feel like that game was stolen from them. You know, that's kind of how they feel about it, that was their game. They should have won it. And it wasn't that they lost it. It was stolen from them. So I don't know. I don't remember how that could have happened, but that's their attitude. So they're coming in with a big chip on their shoulder, and they're going to mean business. Yeah.
Well, Chris,
that's all I got.
Appreciate you calling as always. Keep supporting the Hawks out west, and I wish they were.
I will.
I wish they were playing in Portland personally, because it sounds like I'd much rather have primetime games, but they're in Albany, so hopefully people show up, and Iowa better be ready, because that's a dangerous Buffaloes team they're playing.
Yep, they are. Okay, well, go Hawks.
Thanks, Chris.
I'll be
go
watching.
Hawks. All right. A couple things in the chat I want to get to. So D. Rullifson says, Corey, wear the cowboy hat and a Snuggie for Colorado. For 2 things, I don't have a Snuggie, so I will not be wearing a Snuggie. My wife might have a onesie. I will not be wearing that either.
I need to get one of those.
I might pull out the cowboy hat. We'll see how it goes. So thank you for the super chat, D. Rullifson. Katie, what do coaches need to do to prep for this Colorado team? Excellent question. As we kind of maybe start to transition to looking ahead to Saturday.
Get our offense back. I think we spent entirely. Sorry, my eye is bothering me. I think we spent entirely too much time on the press, and we did not focus on our offense. Focus on our movement, our fluidity within the offense. I don't think that we focused enough on that. And so I would hope that that is what we focus on during practice this week. Defensively, I'm good. And I never thought I'd say that, but defensively, I feel real good about that. So, yeah, that's what I would say. Get our offense back, our fluidity back, and kind of get that mojo back that we had before.
This is not me bringing it up, but Brian wants to bring it up, so we're going to talk about it. I am not bashing Gabbie Marshall for the offensive night she had. She did lay a goose egg as it relates to offensive stats, and I'm just going to read her line here. 0 for 4 from the field, 0 for 4 from 3, 1 rebound, 3 fouls, 0 points, 0 assists, 1 steal, 1 block. We know what she gives you on defense. She gives you great effort. She was exceptional at times tonight. She got a big block late in the game. How do you weigh that with those offensive numbers, the complete lack of production on that end? Is that a big, is that just kind of what you get, right? What you get's what you get 5 years in?
I mean, at this rate, are we surprised? Like, that's my only thing is like, we've already said that Gabbie is the X factor. I've said this, and I also said that you are going to need an X factor to win big games. I've said that. But Gabbie's defense was critical in this game. Okay, without it, we would have struggled. And we needed it. So technically in this game, although she did not produce offensively, she gave us something else we needed. I can't say that that's going to be the same thing for next game. I hope not. I hope that, we need her more offensively than we do defensively, because honestly speaking, if she spends her entire life trying to chase Sherrod around the court, we're going to be in trouble. So, I mean, I'm just glad she gave us something, because we've seen times where she gave us nothing. And I mean nothing. Offense, defense, nothing. She was invisible out there. So
it does sound like, per reports, it does sound like Iowa, Colorado. This is not official yet, but it does sound like Iowa, Colorado will be a 2:30 p.m. Central Time start on Saturday on ABC. Look to confirm that here in the latter part of our show. Let's go to our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. We've got Tony Tony, you're blurry.
Corey, it is official.
Who made it official? You?
The time is official.
The time is official.
Is it really? Where'd you get that?
I sent it to you. I sent it in a tweet in the chat. It was a tweet from a Colorado Buffaloes beat reporter that's verified.
Are you really questioning Tony?
Corey, this is my homework assignment you gave me, and I even called in to
honestly.
tell you this.
I did give Tony that. I didn't think you'd find an answer for me, and you had it in like 5 minutes. So I appreciate that.
And I gave you those ticket things. That's just absolutely insane. But that's all I've got. That's all I want reported.
I'm going to start calling you Teeth Cutting Tony.
Yeah.
So thank you, Tony.
Tony came in here to give us the time and peaced out. All right, Tony. I appreciate the information.
Thank you, sir. Bill with super chat. Thank you, Bill. Can McCabe play defense? It would have been nice to have another ball handler on the court. I thought she was okay defensively when she was on the court. No.
No. That's not why I signed. That's not it. That whole ball handler thing.
Well, they have used her to bring the ball.
She
up.
would have died out there. What are you talking about?
Okay.
What? No way. Listen, do y'all remember her in the Indiana at home game? The girl she had to come out immediately. It was too much going on. No, and you wanted her to go up against their press? Oh, yeah, y'all tripping. No way.
Well,
y'all was going to put my girl in the dungeon. No.
There were some moments in this game where Iowa couldn't evade that press without her on the court.
Right. And then y'all wanted to put her in there? Oh, no.
How many deflections / interceptions do you think were made by West Virginia today?
20.
I was going to say, could you count them on 4 hands? I don't know that you could.
I would say 20 plus because it was getting their hands on everything.
Obviously, Bill, the fact that everybody else laid goose eggs as it relates to 3-point shooting, it would be nice. I did find myself saying that late, like maybe you get Taylor on the court just to be able to give you a shot at making a 3 somewhere and spread the floor a little bit more. But it's not like Iowa didn't have players who are capable of making 3s, and Sydney and Kate and Gabbie. Now, somebody asked earlier, M. Finn wants to know about Hannah not showing any confidence in the outside shot. She made a couple of 3s early in the year, and it's been months now since we've seen her really even attempt shots from outside. And I don't want this to turn into a developmental talk about next year, but do you feel like that's just a lack of confidence right now, or do you think the coaching staff has basically indicated to her that she needs to avoid shooting from outside a certain distance?
Well, this is going to sound crazy, but it's very true when it comes to post players. A 3 is much different than a 14-footer. If that was the case, she'd be a fantastic free throw shooter.
Right.
So in my mind, a 14-footer is a lot harder for her than, a 3-point shot. That's why we've seen her probably take more of those than we've seen her even attempt at the mid-range game. Gabbie is a part of that too. But you can't ask a kid to, in March, start doing something she ain't been doing. It's not gonna happen.
Okay, there you go. Let's go back to our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. Who's on the line?
Yeah, we was a part of that too.
That's me.
Hello,
Am I
you're
on the line?
Yeah, I got you. You hear me?
We got you.
Okay. Hey, let's see a second friendliest Hawkeye on here.
All right.
Oh.
Hey. Yeah, I thought that was a good game. Close. I think the best defense we've seen this year. They cut off a lot of, Caitlin only had 3 assists because they didn't leave anything for her to throw to. They guarded they didn't throw it around the outside very well because they were covering so close. But, as much as it seemed like Caitlin struggled, she still somehow managed to get her points in these games when she doesn't seem to be necessarily shooting her best from the 3s. She still gets her points.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It helps when you shoot 20-something times.
And I had one question for Ash there.
with Stuelke getting those rebounds and then they stick two or three people on her, it's almost impossible for her to pass it out or anything. Would it be better if she just went right back up? Would she more than likely probably get a foul?
I don't know if it's as cut and dry as that. I think it kind of depends. I get what she's saying because Lisa Bluter teaches that a lot. That if you get an offensive rebound and you have two people on you to kick it out because everybody's in the paint, it's a free three, pretty much. So I know she has a big emphasis on that. Sometimes I do wish that she does go up though, because I feel like she's right there. But I also know Lisa Bluter's concepts. So
okay, yeah, because she does struggle with that when she gets three people around her too. But like you're saying, the ball handlers on that team, I don't think they have a lot of them that can handle the pressure. And so they do miss Molly that way. And I don't know how many rebounds that Hannah had, but I thought she played a good game overall.
She had 11.
And she did hit her free throws with her at the end there.
Yeah, she was 6 of 9 from the free throw line, which is above her average, I think. Right? She's probably somewhere in the low 60s, is my guess, without looking.
Yeah. But I thought they toughed it out. It was hard playing against that defense. They were everywhere.
Yes, and they were.
They cut down a lot of Caitlin's. She had more turnovers in the first half. They showed there at one time she had 4 turnovers and the 3 assists. Because they were intercepting her, what normally would be her assists. She just couldn't get them through there. And so, they toughed it out and played it. And, when they needed the rebounds, State got in there at the end of the game and got 2 or 3 rebounds. So, I think when it came down to it, they did what they had to do.
They did indeed. And they're going to have to do more of the same next week because a very similar matchup against a really talented, long, athletic. I think this Colorado team, you could argue, is a little bit. Well, first of all, I think they're longer. They might be a little bit more athletic. I don't know. I'd have to ask Cash about the offense. I know you said they're capable from 3, but
I don't remember them last year. I don't. I might have to go back and watch that because I really don't remember the game like that. So,
yeah, they kind of kept it close at first, but then we just started outscoring them. They got that one girl, Freeman or whatever it is. I watched that game the other day, and she didn't play as much of the game as she did before, like when she played us last year. The one that was a 3-point shooter. They got someone else that does a good job at 3-point shooting. But yeah, it'll be a tough game, but I don't think the defense they play should bother us as much. They're going to play more of a normal defense unless they change something.
Well, sir, appreciate you calling, and we hope to hear from you after a win on Saturday.
Yeah, me too.
All right, sir.
Hey,
good night.
I even ordered a shirt, but I'm waiting for it. Okay.
You're the man.
Right.
Thank you. Appreciate the call. Appreciate the support. I think he said he was ordering a shirt. So.
He ordered a T-shirt already. He said he waiting on it.
Oh, he's ordering. Okay, he ordered one.
I
do not need a Snuggie.
Yes, you do. Everybody needs a Snuggie.
There is somebody wants to know if that's a Buffalo logo on your Snuggie.
No,
is that a Buffalo?
I don't know. Let me look.
Well, let's just make sure it's not.
No,
a
it's
Buffalo.
a wolf. It's a wolf.
Okay, it's a wolf. So the wolves eat buffalo, right? Am I correct in saying that? All right, we're gonna take these last couple of calls and probably wrap this thing up. I know it's midnight now on the East Coast, and Kachine, although I know her nickname is Kachine the Machine. She is human. She needs rest. Let's go to our next caller, Doug, our Iowa Smokehouse caller. Doug, you're not normally here for women's postgame.
I couldn't sleep. Woke up to you actually being on and notified that you're on live. So,
Well,
The
why
man
would
ain't playing no more, so he ain't got nothing else to do.
yeah. Well, I watched the women's game. I have $50 on us going to the Final Four.
Look
So,
at that.
yeah. Just seeing some all the comments about Gabbie remind me of some of the comments about Tony last night. And but players struggle. You guys, were just honest with your criticism, and I don't mind anyone being honest with their criticism. I looked at the box score. I saw 4 players that didn't score. Just was kind of curious about a couple things. Like as I got my $50 on the women here, I don't know anything about women's basketball, Colorado, or any of these LSU or UCLA. I guess my first question is Molly coming back? I didn't hear the first part. How will that help? You probably already went over that. Yeah, that team pressed, and that team was hard, and that team was up to beat Iowa. That would have been a huge upset. So second round games, I know on the men's side are like that. They are in a bubble. You isolate each game and move on. It's survive in advance for a reason. But going back to my first question, Molly, what's the deal there?
I mean, it sounds like she's got a chance. I have not heard Lisa post game. I'm sure she was asked. Molly, of course, was on the sidelines. That's a good. She wasn't. She was in the front row. I don't know if that means anything, but I mean, she's still working off that patella injury, and so I would think that the hope is you get her back on Saturday. But I'm guessing nobody knows because they just don't know how, from a rehab standpoint, that knee's going to look on Saturday. And I do think in a game like that with Jalen Sherrod and what they bring, tonight's a good example. Do everything they can to put that rehab into hyperspeed. Kachine?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm sorry, you're tired.
I mean,
it's
I'm
all
not
good.
gonna burst anybody's bubble, so I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Oh, you're fine. And again,
burst the bubble, Kachine.
I don't feel good about it. I don't think she's gonna be with us until the Elite Eight Final Four if we make it that far.
And again, it is what it is. You can't change that. My question about the 4 players that it looks like they played 4 players pretty much the whole 5 players pretty much the whole game. The bench didn't get but like 9, 7, 3 minutes, something like that. Who do you replace Gabbie with? That's always my question the whole season. Like when everyone says stuff about Tony, well, who do you want on the floor other than Tony? I mean, we didn't have, but like going back to the women, who do you replace Gabbie with to get off?
Well, that's the problem with Molly. It was Molly. Technically, actually, it was Sydney.
No, it was Sydney
who was on the bench, but now Sydney's starting for Molly. So that's the problem.
Yeah, I mean, real quick, can I comment on that, Doug? Because she's absolutely right. Sydney Affolter was coming off the bench most of the year, and I heard there were people earlier in the chat. How in the world was Sydney Affolter not in the starting 5? That's a fair comment to make. Now, I'm not saying you're right or you're wrong, but that's a fair question when she clearly looks like one of your 3 to 4 best players. So, yeah, I mean, if Molly's back, you could argue, or could you argue? I should ask that as a question, stated as a question. Could you argue that Molly starts alongside Sydney?
No.
Hold on a second. Okay. Whatever. What do you mean no?
Absolutely not. Molly ain't played basketball in a whole month.
No.
What do you mean?
I'm not talking about her being 100%.
Oh, you talking about back then?
I'm saying in general, like if
both
you
are healthy,
the lineup in general, assuming you had 100% healthy Molly, could you argue that Molly starts in place of Gabbie?
Like when though? That's my issue.
Starts.
Yeah, but when, Corey? Because even if Molly is 100%, she's still not starting now. That's not happening. Now, if we're talking hypothetically, as far as in the regular season, yeah, I've been said that.
I agree. We don't need to worry about like a month ago. We need to worry about the Colorado Buffaloes. But one men's point before I get to my last women's point. I absolutely hate the portal, and there is way too many rumors, Corey. Last year, I gave you every other guy that was entering the portal. Could this guy be a Hawkeye? I will not do that this year because There's just too many
You don't
guys.
drive yourself nuts doing that.
Yeah, it's just too many rumors. And I'm on 247. I'm just like, dude, I don't even care. You enter the portal, who cares? Yeah.
I don't
Only
follow
care
any of it.
once they say I have committed to the University of
Yeah.
Iowa. That's what you should care about.
I start to follow when I find out that Iowa is showing interest in someone, but I do not envy the likes of, I'm assuming like Raina Harmon, maybe even like Tania Davis. On the men's side, it's probably Matt Gaydens and Tristan Spurlock. These guys who are probably having to dig.
Yeah.
Man, that's a mess. That's not a one-person job.
Well, every time Spurlock follows a guy on Instagram or Twitter, we hear about Spurlock started following this guy. I'm like, that don't mean anything. So, but back, give me a percentage chance right now after the first 2 rounds. And again, because I don't know how confident I should be. Both your teams do a percentage. Like I said, I put some money down. How confident are you of us getting to the Final Four, depending on their draw in the Elite Eight, either being UCLA or LSU, but getting past the Buffaloes and then getting to the Final Four? And I'll leave it there after tonight's performance. Did your feelings go down or up after tonight's performance about the Final Four? And I'll leave it there.
Mine stay about the same.
Which is what percentage, Corey?
Percentage-wise, I would give them to get back to the Final Four, 30%.
I think I was more in the 50.
Really?
It did not change, though.
You were at 50% right now? You think there's a flip of a coin that they make the Final Four?
Yeah, I do. I think it's the bounce of a ball. That's how I feel. I feel like Colorado, whoever the other team is that we got to see, I really believe that it could be just as simple as that, because you don't know which Iowa team you're going to get. If you get the team you got today, or you get the team that showed up at Indiana, or you got the team that, those, or do you get a much better team who's in sync and playing the best basketball they played, the one Indiana at home, that kind of stuff. Like, I don't know who we're going to get. Hence why I'm at 50%.
The only reason I would not go that high, well, a couple of reasons why I wouldn't go that high. One being, I don't know that I give them much more than a 50% chance to win against Colorado. So if we're talking about trying to rate percentage of them winning both against Colorado and against LSU or UCLA, that's why I go down to 30. In fact, I think 30 is being a little bit generous given the matchup issues. But I'm sure people care more about your thoughts than mine, Kachine. So anyways, Catastrophe. Appreciate the super chat. Catastrophe. Gritty win. West Virginia forces 25 turnovers a game. Is that true? 25 a game? Their minimum was 18. Now it's 15. We'll need Martin and Marshall to hit a 3 to continue on. I still got a cash bobblehead from Pep Band. Love seeing you.
That's funny. So do I.
Can you give us the wait? You have a cash bobblehead?
I do.
We need to get more of those produced. I wonder if we can get somebody to make those. And we can
No. I still have mine. Funny enough.
Thank you, Catastrophe, for the super chat. Lonnie, thank you as well, Lonnie. Relax, everyone. The Georgia game was close last year too. This was destined to be a tough game for me. That absolutely is true. Okay, the Georgia game was very difficult last year. And that's why I don't think you can look at one game, with the exception being if somebody goes, like if Caitlin Clark went down with an injury or Kate Martin goes down with an injury, that's different. But you can't look at one game. I mean, I saw Houston as a 1 seed on the men's side go to overtime yesterday, but they survived. I saw Creighton. I've got them in my Final Four. I saw Creighton go to overtime, survived against Oregon. That doesn't change my feelings on Creighton or Houston. I think both those teams have a really good chance to advance to the Final Four. And I would say the same thing about Iowa. I think matchup-wise, the concerns remain the same, at least for me, moving forward, starting with Colorado. If it had been Kansas State, I would have said the same thing, Cash, because that's a different team, but also a dangerous team. So Christian wants to know why we didn't see O'Grady. I saw that question a couple of different times. I think we kind of addressed it earlier.
Mhm.
I don't think we have an answer, do we, Cash?
No, we ain't got no answer. I have no idea.
And Diego brings up 7 assists all game.
That's crazy.
Look at the official stats here. Yes,
that's crazy. That is not Iowa basketball. So the fact that we won and we played like that is crazy. Credit to West Virginia.
To 15 turnovers.
Credit to West Virginia. I don't know how we pulled that out. Kudos to us too. But low 7? That gotta be a career low of Iowa women's basketball.
Chris, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for being here and appreciate the fact that you enjoy the show. Let's go to our next Iowa Smokehouse caller, Corey. The other Corey's on the line. Corey, welcome to the show.
Good evening. I lost my voice. I was screaming. I'm sorry.
All right. All's forgiven.
Kachine, we've got you tonight. Great to have you.
Me too.
I've got okay, so the other perspective was, I think it was Chocolate Beauty commented that the referees ensured that Iowa won in the last 10 minutes. My argument is that, to me, it was like a wrestling match out there. I appreciated the hustle. West Virginia was fast. They were on us they were stuck like glue. But you cannot have the person physically hanging on you. You cannot have the person. To me, I see these games where there's almost a theory where if you foul enough, they can't possibly call every foul. And Kachine, I want your perspective. Have you played in games like this where you feel like they're fouling so much that the referees just give up on trying to call every foul and they have to let some of it go?
Yep.
Have you played in games like that?
I have, and I actually brought that up earlier in the show in regards to the refs having a hard job, because I remember not Coach Bluter, but other teams that I played for where the coach was like, if you start out aggressive, you could stay that way. And eventually the refs will adapt. But if you start out not aggressive and then try to ramp it up, you're going to get called for the fouls because that's not how you started the game. And yeah, you're right. Refs have to adapt. They can't have a game where everybody falls out, because they could have called a foul a hand checking foul every single possession. They can't call that. They just can't. And so in that scenario, Lisa should have prepared them in the sense of, and she might have, but I don't know, but in the sense of they are going to be hanging all over you. You are going to have to be strong. You are not going to get those ticky-tack fouls. It's not happening. You are going to have to be strong. You're going to have to get hit and hold on to that basketball, because they just can't call everything. We would have no game by halftime. Everybody would be fouled out.
And, as far as you look at the players that you would expect to be strongest with the ball in this type of environment, and I look first at Kate Martin. I would expect her to be the strongest with the ball. And tonight she was not. And that the person that it was Sydney Affolter. She was strong with the ball. She was not intimidated. To me, it's amazing to see the progress she's made as far as being confident, handling the ball, pressure situations, knocking down free throws. She's my player of the game. I just was really impressed.
Had a big and one late in the game on that left-handed layup. Let me just say this, and then Kachine, you want to add anything on this, but that's one of my criticisms, and it's none of it's personal, but with Hannah Stuelke, I get so frustrated with Hannah because I see so much potential there, and I know that she's just in her second year. It feels like she's been here forever. She's got room to grow. It seems like she's got one post move. And I say that about a lady who had, 47, 49 points in Carver like a month or two ago. But like I see her in the post and she has one move over the left shoulder with the right hand. And I understand that she's kind of playing out of position. She struggles from the free throw line. She doesn't stretch the floor. Then I look at someone like Sydney, who's a different player. Big play there. Caitlin was actually calling for the ball on the wing. She drives it around the defense, goes with the left hand, finishes +1. I think she's, with the exception being probably Caitlin Clark, she's the best finisher on the team. She misses the fewest bunnies on the team. That's an issue. I mean, boy, Hannah Stuelke had a point blank layup tonight late that was somehow she missed. And I saw some people commenting about that earlier, just missed short attempts. Kachine, just talk about Sydney Affolter and what she's given this team right now in the absence of Molly Davis.
I mean, Sydney doesn't know how to be anything else but strong. She's strong across the board, whether that's finishing, rebounds, big plays. She's kind of strong across the board, and I'm really happy that she's getting this time because I think it's going to be key for us next year. Because she's gaining not only the experience but the confidence to come into next year and lead us. And so I'm really happy for what she's able to accomplish thus far. And you're right, that was a huge take and pretty ballsy, if you ask me. Considering that time was winding down, we had just crossed half court. Ballsy move. I like it.
And the fact that Caitlin Clark is calling for the ball out there.
Yes, very ballsy.
Yeah, the boss is over there calling for the ball.
She's like, I'm taking it myself.
She's I got this.
Of course, because the whole lane opened up. It was crazy. But she's just tough as nails. And I love it. Great.
Now back to Hannah. I was gonna be as tough on Hannah as Corey is, but she drilled those 2 free throws late that were key, and her rebounding was really strong. And she didn't hold the ball down low and get tied up. She pivoted out of it, pivot, and she avoided getting, tied up and a jump ball called when she got those rebounds down low. The 2 passes on the sideline, trying to throw them to Caitlin, those little floaters that got picked off. I wasn't happy about that, but how many rebounds did Hannah have?
She had 11. She had 11. And I'll absolutely agree with you on that, Corey. She fought, she battled, very physical game. She was on the floor a lot. No, I'm not taking shots at Hannah Stuelke. She did have 4 turnovers. That's too many turnovers for someone who doesn't touch the ball a whole lot outside of the post.
She touched the ball too much out there today. That was my take.
Well, part of the problem. Part of the problem.
Yeah, Kachine, can you comment to it just seemed like I've never seen our inability to get the ball to the posts in a good position down on the block. We just could not get the ball to them down on the block. They were always pushed out. Is that just pure physicality, or?
It's defense, y'all. I know we ain't seen it. We ain't seen this kind of defense, but it is defense that is in your face, forces you to not have the comfortability to make reads. It speeds you up. Normally you'd be facing the post. You could see everything. Now you're a little bit turned this way because the defense is like in your face. And so it changes so many different aspects of the game. And you've got to be tough. You've got to be okay with people being in your personal space. And we were not. So normal lobs that we connect were just flying out of bounds, or, normal post pass that were easy for us were not easy because we were getting sped up. Because I don't think their post players were particularly strong. I don't. I just think that our guards were pressured so much that it made the pass harder.
Yeah, and the other thing with Hannah, I've seen her do the little Euro step, the duck under move, down low.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Bigs, but I'm really waiting for the shot fake. I think that she's not utilizing the shot fake much against these. She's going to go up against, for the rest of the way, everybody's a head taller than her. And so, don't you think a shot fake is in order? For some reason, I don't seem to see that out of.
You know what, though? She hasn't played anybody that I would consider a shot blocker, except for Mackenzie Homeless. I think that's the only one that's really a shot blocker per se, and some of that's fouling. So at the end of the day, I think that Hannah's issue, hopefully I'm going to try to demonstrate the rest of mine for you guys, so bear with me. So when she has the ball, right, on my small screen, right, and she goes up, this hand is like where the defense is. I'm going to use this as a difference. She's taking the ball and almost going right into the defense. She needs to go up and finish here away from the defense. I think that is her issue more so than a shot fake. Does that make sense? Because shot fakes are used when they're shot blockers, right? Because regardless of if you don't get anybody off the floor because nobody's jumping. So she's literally shooting right into their hands. If she was to catch and finish over her shoulder, now she has the separation to be able to make the basket, but she's legitimately going right into their hands. They're not even jumping. So to me, I feel like her issue is how she's shooting it more so as like a shot blocker. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. And, putting the ball or putting her body and her head between the defender and the ball versus, almost.
We're not talking like hook shot. We're not talking about that. It's more just like, I'm using this shoulder to create the space and not just going straight up like this. Well, anybody can, I can block that. So if she's doing that against 6'3", 6'4", well, what do you expect to happen? She's shooting it right into their hands. So I would like to see that be developed next year, because at the end of the day, that's still something I think everybody needs, and not just shooting it into the defense hand.
And can I just say, good post players can finish with both hands. Yes. She can't finish with both hands right now. I've not seen her demonstrate the ability to go left.
If she goes left, she's crossing back over to go right.
Yeah.
And there's a legendary coach, at least according to me, at Kirkwood Community College by the name of Kim Mule, who they've got pad. They win the JUCO NAIA national. I think they've got 11 national championships, and they're just down there beating the tar out of their players with blocking pads in practice, and they really toughen them up. And I think there's something to be said for that. There's something to be said for being battle tested and prepared in practice for this physicality. But I want to make a point that if you're going to allow that on the defensive end, then you've got to allow that on the offensive end. You should have the right to protect the ball and put a forearm out there a little bit. I just don't like
as long as you're not going like this, you should be fine.
Yeah, but I just don't like the way the game has gone, where it's the defenders all over the offensive player. They put a forearm out to guard the ball, and then there's a flop, and then it's a charge.
Where the heck did the flopping rule go? I swear they made that a thing at the beginning of the year. Has anyone called it?
No.
Kachine, that's how collegiate officiating goes. When they want to emphasize something, it's oftentimes called a lot early in the year, and then eventually it subsides.
Forgot.
That's just.
But did they call it at all? Like, I don't remember them calling it.
The men's game. They called it in the men's game more than they called it in the women's game. Yeah.
They need to, because I've seen a lot of flopping in this March Madness.
But I mean, you're really taking a lot of the entertainment value out of the game with all of this. A defender runs in front of someone as they're bringing the ball down the court. They dash out in front of them. Oh, charge. And it's all of this stoppage and all of this. There's no flow to the game. It's not enjoyable to watch. It's almost aggravating to watch games. Now, when the defender's up on the person, that's one thing. But I'm talking about freedom of movement down the court
Oh,
where
yeah.
you can't even run down the court without a defender jumping in front of you and flopping, and it's to me.
Just so you're aware, I just want you to be aware, Corey, that some of the talking heads on the professional side, the NBA side of this, say the exact opposite. That guys like, I'm going to bring him up, Luka Doncic, are so. I mean, there's no debating; he's incredibly skilled. But the modern day, and he's even commented on. Luka's talked about how much easier it is to score 40 or 50 in the NBA than it is in the EuroLeague, because you have wider courts, you have so much more freedom of movement. Guys are not allowed to put their hands on Luka. Like, he's made that comment, and I find it interesting that we're kind of having the opposite discussion to some extent as it relates to college.
I mean, I guess, there's something to be said for always being under control. And I'm just going to end with this. The greatest player ever, without question, Michael Jordan, was always under control. You could step right in front of him and try to collect a charge, and he's going to go right around you.
That is true.
Because he's always under control. And so, but there's not many people with the physical abilities to do what he did. And so for the normal average player, I just think these people dashing out in front of someone and flopping, and it's a charge and it's going the other way, I just think that's not basketball. That's just my opinion. I don't know, Kachine, what's your take on this, where you see the ball and we're moving the ball down the court and crossing half court, and one of the offensive players is just crossing half court, and the defender jumps out in front of them and flops, and it's a charge, and they're going the other way. I mean, what's your take on that?
Charging block calls have been probably the hardest call to make since the end of time. It's always wrong. There's not many times I feel like they get it right. I haven't quite figured out why that is. But I just feel like we can't reward flopping. Even there's so many different games I've seen where I'm like, oh my God, like, can we get maybe that is something that a coach is able to say, give me a replay or something, and they can call it, because some of these are like blatant. There was one in the UCLA game. I was like, no way did they call that a foul. Like, she just fell over, like nobody touched her or anything. And I just feel like maybe we need to start helping the refs out. I'm not sure how that works, but I mean, just the name of the game, I guess. Now
I saw multiple occasions, and I'm gonna take a shot at someone, and you're not gonna like it, but I'm gonna then turn around and point the finger back at some of my favorites. But so I saw, the flop is one thing, but when they flop and then they laugh about it because they know they got away with it. So Angel Reese just strikes a nerve with me when she flops and then she laughs. If she laughs
too, because if you think about it, you're telling me that I just collapsed on the floor and you fell for it? Yeah, I'm laughing, because what? Like, if we honestly, first of all, she lost her footing, number one. And number two, that was all on her own. The girl didn't foul her. She just lost her own footing. I would have laughed too, because did she just call a foul? Like, you get what I mean? Like, honestly speaking, that's hilarious. Now, number one, I don't think the girl she didn't deserve it. You know what I mean? But I mean, we got to start putting some, what's the word? We have to start putting some accountability on the refs, because if you think about it, that is hilarious. Like, what?
And are there not enough referees, or what is the issue? Because it's not good for the game. I don't like soccer because of that. Flopping in soccer, I quit watching it.
Yeah, it's bad.
Now, I think I saw you on Twitter, And
sure you
and we're talking about that Stanford girl.
Well, I was hot this morning. Yeah. Go ahead.
Because you know what? She didn't get as much hate as she really probably
You
should
better
have
speak
gotten.
on it.
Now, Kachine, know this. I was going to bring the hate to that girl and her mouth and her attitude, but I couldn't because I was afraid Stanford people were going to come back at me with, oh, yeah, well, Caitlin Clark didn't look real good the other
You're
night either.
absolutely right.
So that's
And my
the only
thing is, as long as you have hate equally, I don't really care what your opinion is. If you don't like it or you think it's classless or whatever those other things you want to say, I'm fine with that as long as it is equally said. We are calling Cameron the same words we're calling Angel. As long as those two are the same, you're entitled to say whatever you want to say. But I just feel like that never happens. It never happens with Caitlin. It never happens with Cameron. It never happens with anybody else. So I just don't think that that's fair. You can say they're both classless and childish.
Now, the only difference as far as Iowa fans is that Angel kind of stalked Caitlin, not stalked her, but followed her off the court for like 10 seconds or 5 seconds.
I ain't like that.
Yeah, that's apples to oranges. What
I don't like that.
Did to Caitlin.
I, however, do not feel like that still warrants the name calling. I don't like that part. I do not agree with Angel following her around. I think that was completely uncalled for, and that is what it should be. But calling her fatherless and ghetto and all this other stuff, it's like, okay, now we're going to the depths of the earth.
Hold on a second. Time out. Can we just make something clear? The reason why those comments are so inappropriate, in large part, is because they have racial undertones.
Yes, like you can completely disagree with it.
I don't think is there anything wrong with saying it was classless?
No, because anybody's classless. I don't care. Like anybody can be. Me, you, everybody. It's just the fact. Remember, that's why I ain't say classless, because that could be said for anybody. But dang, it was like the comments were insane. And I was like, oh my God, why are we calling this girl everything but the sun? Like,
well, she's taken on the same role as, like, I don't know if you recall, if you follow, Iowa men when they played Wisconsin. There's been a couple of, well, they happen to be Caucasian guys, but they were really kind of rough and questionable and sometimes dirty. Some of the fouls they made, some Wisconsin players in the past. And they kind of took on the villain role for the rest of their careers anytime they played Iowa. And I think, when Angel crosses Caitlin, now it's going to be, well, for her team, she's going to be the villain because she crossed our player at Iowa. And so she's going to be the villain role until she graduates, Yeah,
but like, I think that Angel has taken it to the extreme. And my point is, when I say that, I'm not saying she's right. I am just saying that you do not need to call this girl all of these racial things, because the issue is when there is a white person who is being, quote unquote, a thug, that we like to call Black people, right? We don't call them that. We call them dirty. Like, we don't say these racial undertones. We don't say that. That's the issue that I'm having. If you have an issue with it, you are well within your right to have an issue with it. Just stop the name calling and the racial undertones. That's what I don't like. I don't think that that's fair. And I don't think that it represents some people well. I think they get caught up in the rest of the world, should I say. But I honestly just feel like, let Angel be the villain. That's fine. Everybody has one. Draymond Green is the villain. He loves it. Leave him be. Let them be that. But we still don't need to call them out of their names. That's the thing I don't like. You can call them a villain. You can call them classless. You can say poor sportsmanship. You can say, I don't like them. You know what I'm saying? Just leave the other things out of there.
Yeah. And guess what? Real quick, let me just say this. I'm not an advocate for name calling, but there are times when I've called Draymond Green an absolute punk. But guess what? There are also hold on a second. But guess what? There are also many times where I've called people like, oh, I don't know, Brad Davison, an absolute punk and a moron.
Yes, Brad Davidson. That's the
And like
guy.
he's an example. Or hey, how about Grayson Allen? I have no respect
Grayson Allen. Oh my
He
God.
is a dirty.
All people called him was classless and dirty. Nobody
That's what
called
he
this man anything else.
Yeah, but that's what he is. And I don't like.
forgot
I have
about him.
little to no respect for Draymond Green. I have very little to no respect for a number of NBA
That's
players.
okay.
But it's got nothing to do with the color of their skin. But the problem is
Okay.
when there's racial undertones to some of the criticisms. And when you get on social media, you know there's just a free for all. Nobody has accountability. And, we don't need to get into that. But
Nobody has accountability. Yes.
Yeah. Now I'm living up here in Michigan, and I see a lot of good things about Draymond Green. So I'm a
they
little
love
bit.
him up there.
What's that?
They love him up there.
Oh yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of positives with that guy that maybe the rest of the nation doesn't see. And so he buys a little more forgiveness from me. I can forgive him, and I
how do
hold
you
him.
forgive somebody for deliberately punching somebody in the crotch or basically stomping on somebody's head? Like, how do you?
But here's the thing, though. You have to know Draymond as a person, which I do. And I think that's partly what he's talking about is when you actually know him off the court, he's not like that. And so, like, he is like a very loving, supportive, like good dude. And so when you see some of these things, that's why he's saying like he gets a little bit more, I don't want to say leeway, because you know these people, like you physically know them, you outside of basketball. You might be like, Draymond, what the heck you doing? You know what I mean? But you're not gonna hate him or despise him because you know him as a person. Everybody that hates or despises somebody based off of basketball is because they don't know them.
He's being out of character. He's being out of character versus the rest of the people that maybe don't see as much of the positive side think that is his character.
Well, first of all, hold on a second. Just let me clarify this. I don't hate anybody playing basketball.
Okay, you know what I mean.
But let me clarify something. Let me push back a little bit, Corey. When you go to work, you don't stop representing yourself. You don't lose the name in fact, you wear the name on the back of your jersey when you're a professional basketball player. So if you're doing this extracurricular crap that has nothing to do with the sport, it's reflective of your character and rightfully, deservedly so.
I mean, for people that don't know him.
You make a good point, for sure.
Well, I mean, know him or not, like he's still doing those things, Kachine. And
but that's like saying if I was to do something and my friends and my family and people who really know me, they're not going to judge me off of what you see me doing on television because that's the only time you see him. You don't see him in his everyday life. You don't see him majority of his life. You're only seeing him in these spurts moments. Not saying that they're great moments. I'm not saying that. But if we're talking about an overall individual, an overall body of work, you're not going to just say, oh, he's a terrible person because of these few instances.
No. Have never.
So that's why I'm saying that.
Would never say anybody's a terrible, but I will make comments like Ndamukong Kung Su. There was a time when I thought Ndamukong Kung Su should have been kicked out from the league because you're doing things like diving at guys' knees and endangering other players blatantly, like stuff like that, or Grayson Allen tripping people and punching, kicking people in the crotch, or you go down the list. So, anyways, I understand what you're getting at, though, Kachine.
Mm-hmm.
But it all stems from flopping. Let's stop the flopping. We can all agree the referees need to step it up and cut the flopping out. And when there's a foul, call a foul. Don't just let it go because to me the team needs to adapt. If they're going to foul everybody out, they're going to stop fouling so much.
Maybe
at least.
Corey, I appreciate you calling in. I just realized we hit the 2-hour mark, so I got to let you slide.
But we're not doing 4 hours like football. Come on.
We don't have Don Patterson here. We have Kachine Alexander. Anyways, Thank you,
Hey,
Corey.
great show. Go
Thanks.
Hawkeyes.
Appreciate it. Go Hawks. And so we're going to go quick fire through these. I believe that's our last caller. Yes, last caller of the night. So appreciate Corey being here. We're going to go quick fire on these questions. So we'll see how well you do with quick fire questions. I say that to Don Patterson, and bless his soul, he responds to the first question with a 5-minute answer. So let's see how you do with these. But Steeler Chick 46 wants to know, how healthy is Colorado? They've had some players dinged up recently.
Healthy as I saw them when they played Kansas State. Healthy enough.
Yeah, Sherrod was playing. Vonleh was playing. Was Quay Miller?
The important pieces were, yes, she was. She was big for them in that game.
There you go. Alicia says, how did we beat Colorado last year? I watched them play and impressed by them. What was the game? I know you said you're going to have to revisit that game from a year ago, Kachine, but what is the key to getting the job done on Saturday?
Making shots. I'm making shots. We cannot play like we played today. No. West Virginia is not a great shooting team. They shot 34 threes, which was definitely in our favor. If we allow Colorado to shoot 34 threes, we're going to be in trouble because they're going to make at least 30 of them. 30%, that is.
Brian wants to know, do you think the other team's fans have been fretting about having Iowa in their bracket as much as we have about every other possible matchup for Iowa?
Say that again?
Is Iowa as scary of a team to all these other teams in their bracket as... No?
Absolutely not. Nobody's afraid of Iowa. No.
Really? They're not afraid of the Caitlin Clark show?
I wouldn't be. So that's what we have not proven on multiple occasions. And when I say multiple, I mean multiple, where we have played good teams and have blown them off the block. Like, we have not done that often. We've done it a few times, not often. South Carolina has done that many times. They're averaging 34 points plus a game. That's who I would be afraid of.
Fair. Kelly, thank you for the super chat. Just got home from the game. Wanted to say thank you for doing the show. Would call in, but my voice is gone. Go Hawks.
Oh,
thank
wow.
you,
Everybody
Kelly.
was screaming. All right.
Appreciate that. And Katie wants to know your thoughts on another, just a terrific matchup in Sweet 16. LSU, UCLA, both those teams battling through to the second weekend.
Well, I didn't get to watch the UCLA game, so I'm kind of sad about that. If LSU plays the way they played against MTSU, they will be going home. Now, I will give them a pass because they've kind of been hobbled with some injuries. So they haven't exactly had their whole team together for a couple weeks until right before the NCAA tournament. So I know that it can take a little bit of time getting used to or getting back used to. So I'll give them that. But LSU has a tendency to play selfish basketball at times. And if they do that, they will be gone.
Jeff from Arkansas says, when it's tight man-to-man defense, how about a fake pass one way, then throw the opposite way? Passing lanes have to be better defined before the ball is passed. What are your all's thoughts?
Absolutely right. It helps. It definitely helps. Fake a pass to make a pass.
Steve says, it just me, or as the game went on, Hannah was absolutely apprehensive about just turning toward the rim and looking for shots underneath.
I don't know what was going on. I really don't. She was not aggressive in any shape or form offensively. She was a beast on the boards. But besides that, I'm like, what happened? What's going on? Was this the game plan? Because she just didn't look that way. I know there's been some talk about her being sick or her having a knee issue or whatever, but it was just weird.
We're going to save Kyle's comment for a different day. He's bringing up Camila Cardosa.
Yeah, let us get past Colorado first. Kyle, listen, I don't want to talk. I don't even want to think about that until later.
All right. And then we'll finish up with this. Bobby says, Coach Kachine, what are your opening comments to the team concerning the prep for Colorado? By the way, my wife loves the Snuggie. What would your opening comments be regarding this matchup, especially given the fact that You don't know if you're going to get Molly Davis back. Your team really struggled to put the ball in the basket this evening. You're not going to get the same home crowd. How does Lisa Bluter address this team this week?
I mean, I think you give the team grace because this was really senior night. And everybody knows it's very emotional for senior night. So give your team a little grace and you focus on the positives, with that being the fact that y'all had 7 assists, which is nowhere near what you normally have. And you stuck that out. That's what it's going to take to win close games at the end of the day. However, now we're going to look forward. And what we're going to do is, this is not going to be as physical. However, you're dealing with a more talented team. So now we've got to get back to Iowa basketball, and that is sharing the basketball, running the floor, and hitting our open shots.
Camilla says, who's guarding Frida Foreman? This 2-3 zone is not going to work.
Well, we played zone before with shooters. You just got to move. And you have to. You said what?
I was just going to say, she's a very good outside shooter, if people don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Frida Foreman.
She lit LSU up at the beginning of the year. So absolutely. That's the redhead. But yeah, I think that you can play a zone with shooters. It's just the simple fact that you have to be anticipatory. You have to anticipate the next pass. You have to be on your toes so you're there on the catch. So you have to change your mindset just a little bit.
Iowa defeating West Virginia today, folks, in the second round of the NCAA tournament. Hawkeyes advancing to the Sweet 16 via a 64-54 win, and it was a lot closer than that score would indicate. Caitlin Clark, RTI Threads player of the game. She had a game-high 32 points, hitting her season average. 32 points, 11 of 12 from the free throw line, 8 rebounds for the all-time NCAA scorer. Speaking of RTI Threads, one final plug for their new site with Iowa Baseball, iowabaseballswarm.com. Check it out. Their apparel is live. That website is brand new. Support NIL and the Iowa baseball cause. Also, thank you again to Iowa Smokehouse for being with us for this 2-hour show. We appreciate their support throughout the season. Tasting is believing. See how that's the case by visiting iowasmokehouse.com and putting in your order. You spend $50, you get free shipping. And again, you'll get 15% off your total order with the code Hawkeyes at iowasmokehouse.com. Everything is delicious. It's fresh. It's great quality. Again, iowasmokehouse.com. Couple other notes on the game this evening. Iowa, as was mentioned earlier, did overcome 15 turnovers to West Virginia's 9, just 7 assists for Iowa in this game. So those are numbers you'd really like to turn around heading into a big Sweet 16 matchup with Colorado out in Albany. Iowa did dominate the free throw line. That really was the difference in the game. 30 free throw attempts, made 25 of them, and West Virginia made just 3 on 5 attempts. Hawkeyes did out-rebound the Buffs, I'm already on the Colorado. Iowa did out-rebound the Mountaineers by a final tally of 42 to 35. And as a whole, Iowa shot just 36% from the field. Thankfully, they shot well from the free throw line, but 36% from the field. West Virginia, 34%. This game was played at West Virginia's pace. They forced turnovers, made it methodical, and Iowa figured out a way to close this thing out. So we move our attention now to Iowa, Colorado. Any final thoughts, Kachine, heading into that game? These are familiar people. They played each other a year ago, and no doubt there's going to be a big we didn't talk about the crowd at Carver, but I'm guessing a lot of Hawkeye fans are booking their seats out in Albany.
Hold on to your seats because it's going to be a good one.
And the winner of that game will play the winner of UCLA LSU in the Elite Eight. So I
wonder what time their game is.
Well, that will be Monday, right? So what do you mean? What time it'll be? It'll be the same
Will
time.
they be before us or after us?
Oh, you mean on Saturday?
Yeah.
That game would be before. If I was at 2:30, then that's 3:30 Eastern time. The LSU UCLA game would be at, what would that be? Noon Central time, 1 Eastern time. So there's your schedule for Saturday, and then the primetime games will be the other games out West. And of course, the other Sweet 16 games will transpire on Friday. And then if the Hawks get by there, they'll play Monday. So that's the schedule, folks. Kachine, appreciate you being here. I know it's a longer show and it's late out east, so get some rest. And we'll hopefully hopefully we'll get a couple more chances at these post-game shows with you because it's always a joy.
Yes, absolutely. Have a good night, everyone.
All right, folks.
Thanks for tuning in. Hit the like button on the way out.
Yes, please do that. Please hit that like button. It does help. And just tell your friends we're here throughout the college basketball season and throughout the offseason into football. We'll talk to you Saturday, folks. Stay tuned right here. More Hawkeye content on the way throughout the week ahead. Have a great night. Get some rest.